Yo, yo, yo. All right, today we're ranking the Red Dead Redemption 2 gang members, and yeah, let's just get into it. So, this is part two of hopefully two. Hopefully I finish up in this one, but it just depends. Go check out part one if you haven't already, and let's just get into the juiciness. So first up, we have Abigail. Abigail is probably the most underrated character, or one of most underrated characters in Red Dead Redemption 2. She had an important part in like the story and even like the epilogue, and I just like seeing her interact with Arthur and John. She had a good relationship with Arthur and throughout the story, and I think her presence in chapter 6 and in the epilogue were more impactful as we get down the line of the game. And I like seeing her in chapter 6 when she was trying to break out John from prison. She was trying to tell Arthur, hey, let's go break out John because, he's going to get stuck in there. And against the gang's wishes, they go break him out because they didn't want to. They didn't want to break out John yet. But Abigail was in a sense of like urgency, And I really like the last mission with Arthur where the gang is like trying to get away, and then Chile comes and they kidnapped, they got Abigail. They arrested Abigail. And they're sort of in this fight or flight scenario where like, do they save Abigail or do they save, do they just get away? And I think in this moment was probably the most powerful moment for Arthur because he pleads to Dutch, like, please, like, we gotta go rescue her. And then he's like, no, we can't. And it's such like a powerful moment because like he does really care about Abigail and Sadie. Like he cares for the women in the gang, unlike the other members. And seeing her in epilogue was great. When she left John and how she's trying to like pull him back from like killing people, and he keeps on killing people in the epilogue. And when they finally propose and they get married at the end, it's such a great moment for John and Abigail themselves. But I love her presence like throughout the game. I'll put her B tier. Next up we have Trelawny, and Trelawny was an interesting character. He was sort of weird because he was sort of like in and out of the gang, just because like he never stuck. He never stayed with the gang. He would be there for like a few weeks and then he would leave for months. It just depended on like, I guess, the timing. And he was only like in a few missions, but I just really like his character and like just his like weight and what he brought to the table. Like he's sort of like this fancy guy. And I really liked him and Arthur's goodbye at the end. It was such a great moment, and it's such like a little sweet moment, but even though we never really knew him, he was still a cool guy. So I'll put him at C. Next up we have Karen, yes, sorry. Karen, there's not a whole lot to say about her, to be quite honest. She was like sort of like a drunk, like one of these drunk maids in the camp. She didn't add a whole lot to the table herself, but like, I'm trying to remember because like there's no like good moments with her. She was just like this fat bitch in the camp, kind of. I think her and the O'Driscoll guy in the camp had like a secret like romance that you could have missed. I thought that was kind of interesting, but overall she added kind of nothing to the table. So yeah, it's hard to say anything good about her. I'll put her at D. She's not awful, but it is what it is. Next up we have Lenny. To be honest, he's such a cool guy. He was like, I think towards the beginning, he was like one of the newest members, just because he's so young. And I loved all the missions with him and Arthur when they like went out drinking or when they went out like robbing people. It was such like a cool like duo, and him and Arthur got along like really good. And it was a shame how he died in the St. Denis robbery. But he was a cool guy, but there's not a whole lot. Like, we didn't know him that well. But I'll put him at B because he was pretty cool, not gonna lie. All right, next up we have Mary Beth. And I genuinely think Mary Beth was one of the best like female characters in the gang itself. She had a really good relationship with Arthur, and it wasn't like romantic or anything, but I guess like they really like got each other and they really knew each other. They were sort of like, brother and sister in a way. It was also like not really like most of these female characters didn't have a huge impact on the story, but she was like an interesting character because you have these like small little moments in the camp where they would just like talk about like just like family and stuff. And when she talks to Arthur about his love life, about that one girl he was seeing, and I really liked their interactions like throughout the game. I'll put her at B also. And also, I love an epilogue where you meet, when John just meets her at a train station, like, oh, hey, like, I haven't seen you in like 7 years. It's such like a random like moment, but she becomes like a big time author, and she ends up writing this book, and she becomes really successful after like the whole gang scenario. So I'll put her at B. She was a pretty good character in my opinion. And next up, we have Micah Bell. And there's just so much to say about Micah, but I just love how Rockstar like how they made his character in the game. Because when you first meet him, you're like, okay, this guy's kind of like gonna be like the Trevor of Red Dead Redemption 2. He's gonna be like this crazy guy, but you know he's gonna be like kind of loyal to the gang. But you kind of find out that he's really an asshole and he's really out for himself. But you don't really notice till the end. But like throughout, like he's okay. He's got an edge. He doesn't do anything crazy. But like when you get to the end and he rats him out, like this whole thing was for nothing because Micah just ratted us out, playing the strings since Guarma, basically. And I just love when we go ahead at the final mission and we go out and kill him. And I just love how the game allows us to just like put as many bullets in his body as possible, but just because how much we hate him. And this is the reason. I wouldn't say it's all Micah's fault because I think it was mostly his fault, but it was also Dutch's fault because Dutch also lost his way a little bit. And even though he's persuaded him, Dutch should have like, you know, known better. But Micah is an asshole, and I think like there's a small moment in the camp. I think you can find like a letter or something to like from his brother, and his brother saying like, "You better stay away from me, or else I'm gonna go find and kill you. Like if you're in like a 50-mile radius." And he just like kind of like realizes like, "Whoa, like this guy's pretty evil." And that's the thing about it. He's like truly evil. Like in Red Dead Redemption, there's bad and there's evil. You know what I'm saying? So easily F tier. We hate Mike. Next up, we have Molly, and so Molly is Dutch's girlfriend, or wife, or whatever, and she's this Irish chick. She just stays in like her little tent. She doesn't interact with any of the other girls or anything. The girls like talk about shit behind her back, and she just like stays in her tent and reads, basically. And you know, throughout the story, you see Molly kind of get annoyed with Dutch because you know Dutch is on this mission and like he doesn't show her any attention, blah blah blah. And you get to the beginning of chapter 6, and she comes in the camp drunk, and she says, "Oh, I ratted you out." So she ratted us out from the Saint Denis heist. So remember in Saint Denis, all the Pinkertons just showed up outside the bank before you got a chance to rob it. It was all her. She told the cops beforehand, and all because she loved him. She loved him, but she didn't, and she got her fucking chest blown out by Susan. And yeah, she was a rat. Her and Micah were rats. So and yeah, so she's just kind of a bitch. And there's no like good things to say about her, so I'll put her at F also. But she's definitely not worse than like Micah or Dutch or anything. But yeah. Next up, we have Pearson, and Pearson was a really cool guy. He was the cook in the camp, and he cooked all like the food, and you can craft like a lot of things with him, like all these like different upgrades, and like you can donate food to him. And throughout the game, like he's pretty cool. But one thing I really like is when you get to the epilogue, and if you're in Rhodes, and if you just stop by like the store. He's in charge of the store. Like he owns the shop now. And you walk in and you see him and you're like, "Oh, Pearson?" You know? He's like, "Oh, John, like I haven't seen you in ages." And he has like this little like photo of the gang like hanged up on this wall. And this is like another thing I said about Mary Beth. All the gang members who survived after the epilogue and after the whole gang, they all became kind of successful in a way. Like Mary Beth went on wrote this book. Tilly, we'll get to her later, but Tilly became like rich and she married this rich man. Pearson owns the shop in Rhodes. You know, John has a ranch. They all became successful. They all became like the part of the American dream that they kind of wanted to get away from, and I think that's kind of ironic. They all the gang members. Dutch had this mission of like becoming rich and successful, and you know getting away to paradise, right? But I think the members who did survive in the game ended up with that dream, ended up with that mission. And I think that's really ironic. And I just love that part of the game. At least most of them became really successful, except, you know, Micah, Dutch, obviously. But Pearson was a really cool guy, but I just love that moment in the epilogue. And throughout, he's like, okay. Same thing with Trelawny. He doesn't do anything, like, he's not part of, like, any major missions or anything. But he's still a cool guy. I'll put him at C. And yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna pause it here for now. Yeah, I love doing these rankings, and I appreciate all like the love and support you guys have. I appreciate all like the comments and all the likes and stuff. In the coming weeks, I'm gonna do part 3, and that'll be like my finale of like this whole ranking series from Red Dead. So thank you all again, and if you enjoyed, give it a like if you enjoyed. And yeah, guys, so I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.